Hello and welcome to Circle Time, the Early Years podcast. I'm Glenn Denny. Now, I've been trying to catch up with this person for a while and we've managed to finally get our schedules to align. Delighted to welcome Sarah Brown, the Dyslexic Leader. I keep wanting to say the Dyslexic Teacher, but there's a bit of a story behind that, isn't there, Sarah?
There is, yes, there is a story.
Oh dear.
It was hacked, the old account. So yeah,
Oh,
we had to rebrand and restart.
that's
Yes.
I'm genuinely gutted for you because I've seen a lot of the work that you've done online and it was brilliant. And it was like, no, what? Because it was that bit we'd started messaging each other on, I think it was on Instagram, and it was like, hang on, I do know this, I know this person because I think we talked before. And I was like, okay, wait a minute, yes. And that was it.
Yeah, no, it was, and it was so good. And then yeah, the hacking happened, and unfortunately, it started over again. So we're back to square one.
Well, it gives you a chance to refresh and regroup, I suppose.
Yeah,
Look at
it
it from a
does.
positive aspect. Well, welcome to Circle Time. Now,
Thank
we're
you.
we're going to be talking about something. I know I've been talking with lots of different people in different settings, and one thing that kind of a lot of people are struggling with is children's emotions and how to support the child to regulate. So, what's some great tips? How do we even start with this? Because it's quite a big scope, isn't it?
It is, it really is. And I think when the new kind of framework came in and the new guidance, a lot of it was about self-regulation and make sure children can self-regulate. But as we're seeing, and I know I am for sure, is more and more children are coming in and they're not able to even recognize their own emotions, let alone beginning to self-regulate. So you're almost
Mhm.
having to backstep, a year or two of helping them understand their emotions before we can even get to the point of self-regulation. And so it's really about regulating with the child
Mhm.
at this point. And often in all my settings that I've been in, I've created calm corners where we have regulation
Mhm.
toys, and some are fidget toys, some are also like visual timers with the oil and the sand and the water, or have like weighted lap buddies. Or small weighted blankets. And we'll just spend time in there like every day, just generally whenever the children are in the area. We'll encourage the adults to go over and just talk to the children about what the resources are for. So
Mhm.
they get used to seeing what the resources are about. And then slowly we'll start to build them into their regulating time. So if we
Mhm.
do have children that are dysregulated, we'll maybe bring them over to the area if they're okay to do that. Or if we notice that they're feeling really dysregulated, we'll bring the resources to them so that they can start using them in a way that's accessible. And I think that's the bonus of having a calm corner or a calm zone in your classroom, is that the resources are accessible. Whereas
Mhm.
if you're having to go to a kind of a sensory room that's outside of your classroom, or a calm zone that's not in your classroom or in your room or your provision room, it's really difficult to do that because you don't have that capacity. A lot of the time, we're really short on staff. And so having those regulation tools and building them in is a really important way to start. Um, and when children are coming in and they're quite fizzy or they're quite upset, just bringing those resources around and having them and showing them how to use them and modeling them is so important, because by you modeling it, you're showing them how to regulate. And
Mhm.
that is kind of a key skill, really, for practitioners and children to understand.
I was just going to say, I think that's the key part, isn't it? That you can bring in as many resources as you like. And I have seen this where they're like, oh, yeah, we've got this calm corner, we've got all this stuff there. But actually, the children don't know how to use it. And it just becomes something that just gets thrown around the room. So yeah, I think you're right there, isn't it? The key element is when you're introducing it and you're introducing it slowly and you're spending time and you've got that adult there that really understands deeply what each item or each element of this calm corner is about.
I think so. And I think what really works is when it's not just that one adult, it's everybody together.
Hmm.
And it might be that you rotate where your adults are in a room. It might be that, there's only two of you in a room on a day. So, you're going to take turns to be in that area, or even just slowly bringing the resources out. So often, we like to put lots of things out and make things look really
Hmm.
pretty. But we know that children can't necessarily access those things how we want them to access them. And so actually less is more in that
Yeah.
case, especially with regulation toys, because budgets are tight. You're not always going to get things if they're broken. And so actually sometimes the best things to do is to bring out things slowly. So when we were setting up our calm corner, most recently I had some of the colourful timers from, I think they were KCS. They're oil timers where you saw the oil just drip, drip, drip down.
Hmm.
And some were zigzaggy, some were like cylinder shapes. And we just put them out in the calm corner, and we just spent the time with the children. And we said, these are calm resources. If you don't feel fizzy, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling upset or angry, you can come and use them. Yes, we can walk around with them if we are feeling that way, but actually they need to stay in this area because they're there for other children to use as well.
Hmm.
And I think that's also really important, is making the children aware that all of the resources are for everybody to use, because you might have children that become dysregulated and become very reliant on a toy or a resource, which is absolutely fine. But if you've got two children that also really like that toy or that resource, you're going to come unstuck when one needs it and the other one's got it, and the other one might not need it for regulation at that moment. They just want to hold it.
Hmm.
And you have to weigh that up. And it might be that you can get multiple. Great. But I know I've not always been in that situation. And so
Yeah.
we have had talks with the children and said, these are our resources that help us regulate, that help us feel calm. If we feel upset, if we feel sad, those are okay emotions, but we need to come and use the resources to help us, and they will help us, and model how to use them. And then the children start to understand that it is okay that they have those emotions, but they need to use them and process them in a safe way, rather than what some of us are probably seeing in our settings, which is quite a lot of dysregulation, and quite a lot of fizziness in classrooms and in nursery settings where you've got children that are constantly running around or constantly kind of busy and fuzzy and fizzy, because they have so much energy and so much anxiety and so much emotion in their body, they don't know how to process it.
Hmm.
And we need to help them with that. And that does end up in a bit of a blowout or an explosion, and that's not a bad thing. Yes,
Yeah.
it is hard, but it's about how you bring it back from that and how you go, okay, well, we're going to do this next time. Okay, well, what were our trigger points, and bringing it all back together.
You just mentioned there quite an interesting point that, sometimes there is that explosion. And like you say, it's not a bad thing. And I know from working with toddlers, because toddlers happen to be my favorite age group. And let's face it, toddlers do tend to have an awful lot of meltdowns because they are so far independent, but yet they're so far not independent. And,
Mhm.
the world is all theirs and nobody else exists, and all that kind of thing that's going on with the toddler's mind. But for me, I think the bit I used to do was, if they're going to have that kind of that angry moment, it's important that they feel that moment and they feel that anger, but with an adult really close by, ready to take them and sort of ground them again, which I found very, very important for that particular, those toddler emotions.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's really important to have those adults around, and I think that as you said, toddlers often do have tantrums and do have those kind of meltdowns and those anger outbursts, and that's very much a developmental norm.
Hmm.
And I think what we might be seeing more of is that we're seeing that, and it's parents are kind of going, this isn't okay, they shouldn't be doing this, they need to stop, and we're trying to pacify it. And then it
Hmm.
means that when children are experiencing those emotions as they get older, they're not able to understand how to display it and how
Yeah.
to regulate themselves or how to show it in a safe way. And we as practitioners need to come alongside that and very much, work with the child and let them have that almost safe explosion, and let
Hmm.
them have that safe moment where it's okay if you want to, scream and shout. I'm still going to be here. I'm not going to leave you, but we need to do it in a safe way. And it might be that you have 2 feet on the floor that where the children can go when they're feeling really angry, and they can just stamp, stamp, stamp it out until they're ready. Or you might have, some textured hands on the wall where the children can go and stroke it and just stroke out that anger, or those emotions. And they're different ways of directing the children. But before you even get them to that point of being able to move from, I don't know, the outside where someone's had their toys in the sandpit and they've gone, I really don't like this. This isn't me. I want my
Hmm.
toys back. The inside where that area is, you need to help them understand that like you can be angry, that's okay, but we're just going to do it over here. Or, yes, we can have a moment
Hmm.
and then we're going to talk about it. It's
Yeah.
okay. These are other toys we can use, and being firm in that and being consistent. And I think consistency is key in this and making sure that
Hmm.
all your adults, wherever you're working, are all saying the same thing and doing the same thing with that child. Because the moment that one person isn't, that child feels unsafe. And that unsafe behavior might look like that they are more pacified with that adult. It might look like they have less meltdowns with that adult. It might look like they play up more for that adult. But all of those things do have a contributing factor. And it's about making sure that, you know, those things that are happening do have a knock on effect and make sure
Hmm.
everybody's aware and supporting the children in the best way and keeping those consistencies.
Yeah. I'd agree. I mean, the consistency. So, I mean, years back when I ran a toddler room, and again, like you say, it's a developmental norm for a toddler to have those moments of just overwhelm and just everything's just too much and the world's crashing in on them. But it was important that, we would carry on with the rest of the routine of the day. If one child was having their moment, one of us would always stay. And then when that child felt safe and secure, they could come to us, get a cuddle, and we'd talk. And like you say, that was a key bit there as well, that you talk about it afterwards to help them understand this is what you were feeling and this is why, and this is what we could do. I think that was an important lesson that, not that it's not teaching a child as such, but it is in a way, it's like, it's not direct teaching, but we're helping them to understand what's going on. So I suppose we are teaching them.
It is. And I think you're right in that it's that we're not explicitly teaching them this is how you do something, but we're
Mhm.
teaching them that, you know, as an adult, you can't go outside and say, I'm really angry today and start hitting people and throwing things. That doesn't work. You can't stand in Sainsbury's and someone, pushes in front of you and you hit them. It's, the outcome of that is not going to go well for you. And
Mhm.
we kind of have to go all the way back to when they're 2 and 3 and go, okay, you can be angry. That's fine. And the adults that I work with often look at me going, Sarah, what are you? When they first start. And I'm like, no, I'm happy. I'm more than happy for them to be angry as long as they're being
Mhm.
safe, as long as we are safe, as long as the children around them are safe, then they can be angry. They need to show their emotion, but then we will talk about it and we will discuss it and we go, actually, that's fine, but you can't throw all the toys out the sandpit. You
Mhm.
can't go in there and get every single toy and throw it out while your friends are in there because they want to play. And at the end of the day, everyone needs to play. And slowly the children start to work through that. And it is very much teaching them about how how to manage those emotions and go, actually, okay, well, I'll start to walk off then. And you do see it in those transitional behaviors that as children get older and they move to 3 and 4, as they start to realize they're not having all the toys they want from the sandpit, they will walk off and they'll go over to a corner or they might go to a different area and be angry. But they're showing that they've made that progress from when they would have,
Mhm.
2 years ago, thrown all the sand out the sandpit. Now it's, I'm walking off from that and I'm choosing to do something else. And that in itself is a massive developmental milestone that you have helped that child learn to do. And just remember as a practitioner that that is really good that you're helping those children do that. Obviously, if they're going off and not being safe, then you need to work on that too.
Mhm.
But it's about helping them and it is very much teaching them those kind of life skills.
It is. It's kind of, I don't want to say in the moment, but it is. It's that particular moment that you're focusing on, and it's that particular lesson that you're teaching that, you're angry because of this. And I think it's naming all the parts of it. You have to do that with a child. You have to almost break it down for them so that they understand this is why I'm feeling like this because you said I can't throw all the toys out, but actually I can't throw the toys out of the sandpit because all my friends need to play with it. It's labeling everything so that they begin to understand that whole process, isn't it?
It is. And I think that's what's so hard for practitioners when we are in the moment because you have so much going on.
Hmm.
And, there are days when you won't sit down and you will be all over the place and you'll have, 10 children around you all the time going, I need you, I need you, I need you. And you are literally there fighting fires. So I do appreciate that it's not always easy.
Mhm.
And yes, the new framework came in with self-regulation, but so did all the other things that came on top of that. The new
Mhm.
safer eating guidance that's just rocked up, the new ratio, the ratios that hundreds of other things that crop up in every time they release a new framework, there's something else. And I think, for practitioners, that autonomy is kind of taken away in a way, or that time to actually spend with the children is taken away, especially when they move into school, because you are so rigid by your ratios. You're on a 1 to 13 in a nursery classroom.
Mhm.
In the reception, you're on a 1 to 30. You might have a TA. If you're lucky in a reception classroom, and they might be your whole class TA. You might have two if you've got quite high send. And even then, that isn't enough time to help children to learn to regulate their emotions if they've never been to school or to nursery, whilst also teaching phonics, reading, writing, and maths.
As
It's
usual,
crazy.
juggling in early years.
Yeah. So I do appreciate, and I do sit with every practitioner when I say it is hard, but I think that those building blocks are so important.
It's almost like the earlier you can start with this, the better. And like you say, like we need parents on board as well, because some parents, I mean, I've kind of seen, you were talking about this, and I've seen two opposite sides to this just recently as well, where I saw one parent who had their toddler who was having an absolute screaming meltdown in the middle of a shopping centre, and the parent just calmly stood there. And then as soon as the child had finished, the parent just put her arms out and he came and got a cuddle. And I'm like, that's brilliant. You are helping your child to regulate. You were there for him when he needed, but you also understood that he needed to have that moment. But then the other bit, like you were saying there, was I saw another parent and a child was in a coffee shop screaming and shouting, but the mum was trying to pacify. So it's like we need parents on board with this. And it's like we need to kind of talk about this as well with parents, like our parent partnerships, which is another huge bit that's come in the framework and everything else that, we need to explain to them. It's like, well, we're doing it this way and this is why. And I think that's kind of important as well, isn't it?
It is. And I think, parents, you're looking at our parents now, these are parents that prior to COVID would have had a lot more baby and toddler groups, that would have had a lot more midwifery care,
Mm,
um, and postnatal care. And now, post COVID, they're lucky to get maybe 2 home visits from a health visitor,
mm,
some of these parents potentially. Um, I've done many parent meetings, and parents have come to me and for our new starters, and parents have gone, "Oh, I don't know, I've never not seen my health visitors since they were one." And I'm
mm,
like, okay. And it's like, actually those important parts of that journey for a parent are now missing and have been taken away.
yeah.
And we need to find ways to give that back. And I'm not saying, we have to do it now, but I think the whole system needs that revamp. And I think if you do have those opportunities to work with parents early on, I know it is really tricky in PVIs and settings where you've got kids from 8 till 6 and parents are at work all the time. It and I've similarly got it where parents are like, I can't stay, I've got to go to work, and it's like, I need you, like, this be really good, come along.
Mm,
Um and it's trying to find that time to build that in, but helping and signposting parents to the regulation and the support and actually what
mhm,
is developmentally normal, because to them, they might not see that it's developmentally normal for a child at 3 to still have tantrums, especially a young 3-year old, that they might still be in their toddler phase where they're still having tantrums, and that's okay. It's
mhm,
about how you build on from that. And like you said about pacifying in a coffee shop, it, it's almost that embarrassment that the parents don't know how to deal with. And
mhm.
we need to support that more and go, actually, this is okay, or these are the things that you can do to help yourself and help your child.
Yeah, absolutely. It is that bit that they are missing a lot of that information now. Health visitors as well. Like you say, there's so few and far between because they've had more and more work piled on them. So they're taken away from kind of doing that bridging that almost like one-stop information place, for parents, for new parents particularly. And it's you also said there is about normalizing or and providing that information about what's developmentally appropriate. Some parents, and I get this as well, from when I have been in settings, it's like, is this normal? Like, yes, very much so. Absolutely. They're going to do that. And here's what you can do. And it's like, it's trusting your team, particularly in a setting to, if a parent comes up to you and says, is this normal? It's like, right, let's have a chat. I'm going to tell you all about it. And, here's what you can do. And I think it's taking advantage of those opportunities as well.
It is, and I think when you've got parents that are coming to you, it's finding that time. And I know it's often at drop off or pick up, but if settings could have the extra staff at those moments where you've got that key worker that's able to step out of the room and speak to that parent, I think parents would feel so much more appreciated by that, and
Mhm.
they'd feel so much more relief that actually, instead of just going, oh yeah, it's fine, it's normal, don't worry, that we all do because we're all so busy and we need to get back in the room because we know somebody's left on their own. Or, we've got to get back in there because you can hear all the crying and the screaming. It's about actually having that time to, like you said, sit down with a parent and go, yeah, it is normal. Let me tell you how. Like, let me tell you how we can work on this
Mhm.
together. We're trying this at nursery. Are you trying to get at home? Here's some books that we read at nursery. Do you want to take them home? We've got spare copies. You're welcome to try them and see how you find them at home. But we've noticed they work really well. Um, and it is about building that up. And it is in those small chunks, even just in those general conversations, because lots of parents will be in similar WhatsApp groups, lots of parents will
Mhm.
talk. And they'll all share that information. Um, and so even if they're just sharing it by word of mouth, that again is really important, for each other and for them.
I know another important thing in a previous setting that I worked in, we took advantage of, video technology. So, we knew like during the day, it's really, really difficult for parents to get out of work to come in for a parent meeting. So, if you're wanting to have that discussion with a parent, it's really nice that you could set up a video call with a parent and say, well, I know you're at work, but if you've got 10 minutes during your lunch, let's set up a call. I can get that into the rota so that I'm free to come and do that. And it's taking advantage of that as well. It's like almost like planning it. And it also gives, if the practitioner's not feeling very confident about having that discussion about behavior and about regulation, it gives them some breathing space to kind of do some research and some reading so that they've got some information handy as well.
It does. And I think it's really important to find those moments and to find that research and that reading that you want to use to support your parents, because you yourself will be asked lots of questions, as a practitioner. And if you don't know the answer, it is really hard to then go, oh, I'm not sure, let me check it out. And it does take a while before you actually get confident with going, let me get back to you on that.
Mm-hmm.
It does take some confidence to say, let me get back to you and I'll find out the information. And, you know, often I will say that to a parent because I won't have the answers. Or if I do, I'll be like, let me get back to you with where I've got the information from. And parents are like, yeah, okay, great. And then I'll drop them an email or I send them over the links. Something that's really useful I've noticed has really come up is tiny happy people.
Mm-hmm.
So they're by the BBC. They're on
Yeah.
the CBeebies website now, and they are phenomenal. They've got so many videos, so many like website links and resources that are fantastic. All about starting school, emotions, regulations, new
Mm-hmm.
babies, um, changes, everything that you can think of is on there. Toileting is a big one as well. And I think finding those things, even if you are signposting parents to that, because you're not just going to signpost one parent, you're probably going to end up signposting quite a few parents.
Yeah.
So, if you've got those in your arsenal, in your bag, then you're going to do great. And I think it's about having those little tricks up your sleeve. And also that information is really good for you as a practitioner to go, I'm going to try that. If you weren't trying it already, I'm going to try it. And then I can say to mum, I've tried it. And then mum might actually go, yeah, I'll try that. It worked in nursery. Great. Let me try it at home.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about tiny happy people there, and I've had a lot of resources from them. I've seen them at various expos and conferences and things, and the information is absolutely amazing, and it's backed by experts as well. But I know in one setting I managed, I used to have a display board, and I would just change it regularly with like top tips and information for parents, and that's quite another useful thing as well. Some parents may actually be a bit hesitant about asking for that information, but if they know the informations board is there, they could also reference that as well.
Yeah, I think that's really important is like sharing that information with parents. So whether it is by a board, and then parents can come in and take a photo of the information that's on there, or even just having QR codes up that all take them to the
Mhm.
website links. That's really important because actually it gives like parents that autonomy to do that.
Mhm.
And if they are anxious about it, and if they're saying, well, I see this at home and you're not saying you see it in your setting, they will start to question it and go, okay, there's something wrong with me. It's not okay at home. What am I doing wrong? That's that's when you can, gauge it and you can go, well, we've got this information if you want to have a look, or there's this, maybe see, and then you can come back and
Mhm.
have a chat. Um, I think it is so important to have those opportunities in various ways, like you said, meeting online, having a parent board, having information shared out online, sending it by email, or even I know lots of settings use like Tapestry
Mhm.
or is it Nursery? I can't remember. Family, I think it is.
Family, yeah.
Family. Um, yeah, like those are really good as well because parents get those notifications all the time.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's really helpful for them to see that information, have it, and if they're not feeling confident, to come in and to be able to just pick it up.
Mhm. It is. It's making it accessible, like the information that is there for parents in a way that works for them as well, which is really important.
Yeah, definitely.
So, we've kind of talked kind of like the two sides there. We've kind of talked about how, we can build in sort of those opportunities for regulation and understanding with the children. And it's really important that, like you say, when we're bringing the resources out, we are spending that bit of time building in and demonstrating and really sort of, really showing off what these resources can do and what they're for, most importantly, and teaching that care like we would do, I suppose, with all the resources that we'd have in the room. It is about that time, isn't it? Which I know we said is quite precious, but I think it is quite an important focus for that as
It
well.
really is. And I think a lot of, topics and themes that we teach are, very much in the beginning of the term or, um, at the beginning of a year, say in September, are all about me and who
Hmm.
I am. And Jeanette Basin, I think, has just done a really good spread on this with Spread the Happiness, in that actually it's changing it to be more about me and who I am for a child. Because
Yeah.
they don't know who their family is. They don't really know what they're doing. They don't know where their body parts are anymore. I've got many children that, can't even sit up straight on a carpet. So I'm wondering how on earth I'm, able to regulate them, and how they, no wonder that, they're getting very upset and very dysregulated most of the time. I think it's about having access to those resources, but also books and themes,
Hmm.
and supporting as a whole setting really. And it is about giving that time, because I think even though we are so pressured in the curriculum and what we need, until children are regulated, they're not going to be able to learn.
Yeah.
And until there's connection, children aren't ready to learn and communicate. So it's about building in that time for regulation. And even if it's, every morning you come in and you do some mindfulness, or, you do some yoga, or you do some movement time, getting that energy out, getting that excess out is so important to help children feel calm and stable and safe in their setting. And I think having books to link to that as well is good. Which is hard as well, because there aren't that many board books and books for 2 and 3 year olds about emotions. There's lots about families,
Hmm.
but there isn't a lot about emotions. And I have had a look. Um, and it is about helping children to see and recognize it and understand their emotions, I think is so vital.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's that bit, like you say, September is always, whether you're like a PBI nursery or a school nursery, we always seem to start again in September, the t start of the school year. That's when our cohorts tend to move round and everything else. And it does become a focus. And I think you're right, is like if a child doesn't understand about them and themselves, they're not going to be able to move forward. And I think that kind of has to be the focus as well, is the children getting to know them getting to know us as the adults, because some of them may be absolutely brand new to nursery and others may be brand new to that room. They might have seen us in the passing, but they might not know us. But yeah, spending that time working with children about understanding themselves and what they can do, and and what their emotions are about as well. I think that's highly important for the start of the school year.
It is, and I think it is really important, and it's about giving that time. So I'd say to anybody that's listening, if you've got settings or you've got a school that isn't wanting to give that, even now, we're coming to October, that there will be classes out there that still are struggling with their regulation, and they've got head teachers and people saying we need to, you need your writing, you need your phonics, and if your children aren't able to sit and they're not able to communicate and they're not able to regulate themselves, they're not ready for that, and that's okay. The children that we've got coming through now are very different to the children of 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They're all screen based, they're all kind of like robots. I'm going to say it. They're very similarly. Lots of American accents coming through. And it's kind of scary because, children aren't robots. They shouldn't be. They should be allowed to be free and play and be independent and run around. And yeah, it is okay to let them have that time and to get used to regulating themselves and knowing who they are. And that is important, and helping with them with that. So yeah, I think it is just, anywhere, wherever you are, if you've got, leadership that are asking you to do things that you don't feel comfortable with or your children aren't ready for, just say they're not ready. If your children aren't ready, you're not going to get the outcomes that they want.
As advocates for the children, we've got to challenge it, I suppose.
Yeah, and it is hard. I'm not going to lie, it is hard. But I think hopefully there's changes coming and things will get better. I have to hope.
So do I. Sarah, I think time has now crept up on us, but this has been
It has.
absolutely amazing conversation. Thank you so much. It's been brilliant to talk to you.
Thank you for having me, Glenn. It's been so good to chat.
Sarah Brown, thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.